Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. John Kelly, profiler here, and welcome. Welcome to another very sad video on the murders of Libby German and Abby Williams. This is part 3 on who killed Abby and Libby, and it's called The Process of Elimination. I must put out that everybody is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. There's no question about it. With that being said, we have to move forward and we have to take a look at the motive that may have been involved here in their murders. As you know, law enforcement has kept it pretty close to their vest, and I agree with them 100%. It's their case, it's not my case. They need to run it the way they see fit. They have not put out a motive or a manner of death. Today I'm going to talk about the motive, and we're going to see who this could possibly lead to. Usually when you have a murder take place, you have different possible scenarios, different possible motives. One is money. Lots of times, money's a factor in why somebody gets murdered. I want to take that off the table today. I don't think anybody paid or put out a hit to have these girls murdered, and I don't think they had a large sum of money on them when they were murdered. So I can take money, I feel, off the table as not being a motive in their murder. The other thing I want to take off the table is vengeance. I really have a hard time believing vengeance is involved in their murders. I really and truly do. I don't believe it. I know there's some speculation on that out there. Some people are talking about it. But I really have a hard time that a hitman would be out there fulfilling a contract, or somebody would be out there killing these girls because of vengeance. I mean, in the middle of broad daylight, in an area where other people supposedly were that day, because school was let out, or school was out early. I mean, come on. So I'm taking vengeance off the table too. One thing I'm not going to take off the table, and another motive for murder, lots of times, is mental illness. Mental illness can be a contributor to murder. In fact, a number of serial killers are what we call visionary serial killers. And I'm not saying that's what happened here, but it is definitely a motive I'm looking at. And the reason I'm looking at this is because a lot of homeless people are mentally ill, and they suffer from paranoid schizophrenia and delusions. And when we look at a visionary killer, we're looking at a person that gets commands. They hear voices and they follow those commands lots of times. So they think they're getting these commands to kill from a higher authority. Some examples: these guys have hung out in subways and pushed people waiting for the subway off the platform and onto the tracks. We've all heard about it. It happens, okay? That's because the voice told them to do it. So they followed the command. Also, we have a lot of helter-skelter kind of stabbings. Usually, these types of paranoid schizophrenics that are killers are into bloodletting. And over the course of my career, I've seen a number of unorganized bloodletting murders. Most of them are stabbings, the vast majority, some are shooting. But these types of killers, these visionary killers, are very focused on bloodletting and are very, very unorganized because they don't plan it, they only act it out when they hear the voice and the command to kill whoever the person or persons are. All right? So that's something else I have on the table. So I want the visionary killer on the table today, and I want the last motive on the table today, which is a sexual predator. Was the motive for this crime sexually motivated? I don't know. I don't know. That's up to law enforcement. They know. I don't know. But I believe right now that it's either a mental illness kind of murder from a homeless type person, that may have been passing through the area and is very transient, or I believe, and a bigger part of me believes that this was a sexually motivated murder by a sexual predator. Now, some of the points of interest we have to look at with the sexual predator especially is that usually this is a person that comes from a very, very dysfunctional, abusive kind of family. And usually they've been physically abused, sexually abused even themselves. Usually, growing up in that type of family, they feel powerless. So this is why when they engage in this stalking and hunting and murdering, they're focused on having power and control over their victim because they grew up in an abusive childhood situation and saw a lot of childhood trauma, suffer from childhood trauma, which I believe is the root of a lot of this stuff, and go on to unleash the rage and anger on others, usually a female victim or a younger child kind of victim. And in that situation, they have complete dominance, power, and control, something they didn't have when they were younger. And plus, they get to unleash this volcanic rage that's been building up in them over years. Also, too, we're looking at somebody who not only grew up being physically or sexually abused in the family of origin, but also humiliated. Usually there's some kind of humiliation for whatever reason that takes place with these kinds of predators. I've also seen where, there is a lot of learning disabilities that come along with this. There's so much trauma that takes place, and they're suffering from so much post-traumatic stress that it's caused them a problem, a learning type disability. And I've seen that in these various predators. The other thing that we've found in these sexual predators is what we call an attachment disorder. And that is where this predator has not had an attachment, a genuine attachment, as a baby would to its mother or its father growing up in this abusive, dysfunctional family, this family of origin. Usually, this attachment disorder can be to the mother, or it can be to the father, it can be to both parents. I've seen it. I've seen this attachment disorder take place with the mothers. I've seen it take place with the fathers. And I'm talking about biological mothers and biological fathers. Okay? Usually, if this attachment isn't cemented and solidified and doesn't take place, you are going to have an angry child on your hands, which in some cases is going to grow up and is going to project that anger and that internalized rage onto others. Something else that is bothering me, if there was a sexual predator, and it's over 2 years now that we had these murders of Libby and Abby in Delphi, if there was a sexual predator in Delphi, or there is one in Delphi who's hiding in plain sight, why hasn't he acted out? It's very hard for these guys to have such a long cooling off period. Why hasn't he acted out? I've seen it before where they don't act out because they're scared of being arrested. They're scared of getting caught. So, that can keep them, on the run and staying low. So hopefully, that's what's going on. Another situation that could have taken place is that this particular person, couldn't stand the heat in the kitchen. and had to get out of the kitchen. You know, I mean, maybe Delphi became too hot for them and they decided to leave. They decided to move on. And one thing we always have to keep in mind, that flight can be a sign of guilt. So if this person was in Delphi and killed and murdered these girls in Delphi and became a person of interest and then left Delphi and went somewhere else, definitely he has to be eliminated. He should be eliminated. Anybody at all who law enforcement feels could have been a person of interest and picked themselves up and left Delphi should be eliminated. Because the bottom line is, these guys usually don't stop. They cool off for a while, and especially if they don't want to get caught, they try to fly under the radar. And like the superintendent said, they try to gain as much information as they can on the ongoing investigation. You know, truer words have never been said, because they do that all the time. I'm sure they followed us on here, okay, just to keep an eye on what we know, and probably will be doing that now too. But anyway, that's what I have for you today. We are overwhelmed, completely overwhelmed, with all your attendance, all your views. I mean, we are humbled. We can't believe all the subscriptions we've gotten from you. We are truly, truly humbled, and I cannot thank you enough. Thank you so much for all your subscriptions and for all your views. And hopefully we can continue to make this interesting for you, and hopefully it will lead to the capture of the killers or killer of Libby and Abby. Thank you so much. Make it a great day. Stay safe out there. Thanks again.